Everybody, it's April Dawn. Let's talk about it. This is American Crime Story, the assassination of Gianni Versace, episode 3. This episode was pretty good. We went on a little walk back through time to see what Andrew was doing before we got to the situation. Now, I think it's important for us to understand that Andrew had already killed 2 people before we even got to this point in the story. So I'm glad, because I was kind of worried about how they was going to fill 10 hours with just this, and he didn't even interact with Versace that much, if at all, okay? Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, we start off the episode. We're getting introduced to some new characters. Those characters are Marilyn and Lee Miglin. So Marilyn used to be a dancer, and then she started her own commercial perfume line, and she used to sell this on Home Shopping Network. And her husband, Lee Miglin, was a Chicago real estate mogul. We see her on Home Shopping Network talking about her product and her past and how she was raised and all that different stuff. And then she goes home. Well, she arrives back home, and then she finds out that something is wrong. She's looking around in the house. She's walking around trying to figure out what's going on, and then she realizes something is not right. They call the police. The police come in and find her husband's body with women's underwear on and porn magazines all around. So when they find the body, she's sitting at the front and she's like, I knew it. Classic Ryan Murphy introduction. I loved it. I was here for every single second of it. This episode, to me, it dealt with a lot of shame, homophobia, denial, power structures. It was a really good episode. We then flash to a week earlier, and they are at this banquet. Now, at this banquet, Marilyn gets up and talks about how wonderful her husband is. He's great. He's this, he's that. He's the perfect husband. As soon as she said he was the perfect husband, I was like, child, he ain't perfect. Okay, he introduces Lee, and I guess he makes his speech. And so later on that night, she's at her house, and she starts to take off her makeup. I mean, she was giving us the Viola Davis How to Get Away with Murder moment when she was taking off the facade of the marriage. She put a little perfume in between her breasts. That's letting her know that she wants some D in her life, but she ain't getting it from her husband, okay? So she in denial. She know what it is, but she trying to make herself think that it's not what it is. Her husband receives a phone call. He goes and steps into the other room. This is Andrew calling him, telling him that he's in town, just for a few days, and he wants to see him. Now, we don't necessarily know the nature of their relationship, but like I said, if you smart enough, you can pick up on cues. You can figure these things out, okay? He comes back in the room and tells her that it was just business, so, he's lying to her. But when they get in the bed, y'all, they're hugging each other and they holding hands. So I like the fact that even though he was lying to her, he was keeping part of this self-secret from her, they still had love in their marriage. So I really like the fact that they had love in their marriage between them two. They really did love each other. Because if you think about for the time period, that type of man, if they were born in the 30s, you're thinking this is the 90s. They was probably born in the 30s or 40s, and it was absolutely no way you could be out of the closet and be a successful man. So he was hiding all of this. Part of this is just the way he was raised and the times that this happened in. It's getting ready to leave town, and he's looking down. Lee is looking down. He's looking like he's upset about something, and she's like, why don't you just come with me? Why don't you I like it when you're there. So, and he was like, no, I'm so proud of you. And they really have a endearing moment. That was the last meaningful interaction that they will ever have with each other. But it was really, endearing to see him say, I'm so proud of you. And he was such a supportive person to her, but you do get the vibe that they're like best friends, that they're not lovers, they're just friends. He tells her no, he's not gonna go with her, and then she leaves. So soon after, Andrew arrives in town, and he comes into the house, and him and Lee embrace each other. They soon move on to upstairs to the room. Lee is showing Andrew these plans he has to build this building called the Sky Needle. So it's supposed to be the tallest building in the world, even 500 feet taller than the Sears Tower. And so he goes on and on about this, and he's so proud of it. And then Andrew, now this is interesting. Like I talked about before, you can see that Andrew is clearly jealous of any man with power, and anytime he's in a situation where somebody has more power than him, he works very hard to flip their power dynamic as soon as he can, because he immediately starts admonishing him. Oh, you're all not building this building for other people. You're building this building for yourself. Why don't you call it the Miglin Needle Tower? And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. It's not about me. He's like, it is about you. Why you keep telling me this? You're trying to impress me. And so then he tells him, stop, just stop. And so he starts to kiss him, and he says, taking that power dynamic back, because he knows that this man has a repressed, you know, homosexuality. He been pressing his whole life. So he is more, you know, confident in his, even though he lies about who he is too, and he has self-hate, but we'll get to that in a minute. But he says, oh, you never been kissed like that. And the man says, no, I haven't. And he said, how does it make you feel? And he says, I feel so alive. Very ironic, knowing that you about to be dead in a few minutes, Charles. He tells him that they're about to go out. And he says, we're going to go out and, you know, I'm going to have control. So I was kind of in and out the room. So I didn't see if they actually like went out somewhere. But what I do know is he did the tape thing. So obviously this is his MO. MO stands for modus operandi. If you don't know what that means, y'all have to watch Law and Order like I do all the time, okay? Basically, is the mode in which they operate, what they do. Every serial killer has their thing. They either keep something from the victim, or they arrange the body a certain way, or sometimes their modus operandi is that they have no modus operandi, okay? His is the tape. So he tapes up the man's face, you know, as if they're gonna get into like a masochist sadist thing. What I've noticed about Andrew is that we've never seen him actually be with another man, even though he probably has been with this man before, because he was hired as an escort. Because when he kissed the man, he said escorts don't usually kiss. So he knows him from before. So apparently they have had relations in the past. He wraps him up with the tape, and then he starts to embarrass him. He starts to berate him. He tells him, I already killed 2 people, and I'm gonna kill you next. And I'm going to put porn magazines all around your body, and I'm going to put you in your wife's underwear, because I want everybody to know, you know, how does it feel? Everybody's going to know, the media, the press, your wife, everyone's going to know, and you're going to be so embarrassed. And Lee wears a hearing aid, so he can't really hear what he's saying. But he does start talking loud and says that he's going to do all these things to this man. What I took from this scene is that Andrew, it's interesting to me that Andrew is using homophobia to embarrass and shame this man. Like, he wants to take all the power away, or all the influence, or all the reputation this man has, to shame him. So it's almost like, because Andrew, we know, is gay. I think it's on his own self-imposed homophobia and self-hate that he's, you know, taking out and taking it out on all these closeted men. It could be, you could also argue that he's trying to expose hypocrisy. He's on some type of crusade to expose hypocrisy. But more than likely, I think it's because he probably hates himself, and he's taking that hate for himself out on other men that are closeted, because we all know Andrew is not necessarily closeted, but he tells people whatever they want to hear for whatever situation he's in. So it serves him to be gay, he'll be gay. If it serves him to be straight, then he will be straight. So I think that had a lot to do with what was going on. We flash forward, because he kills him immediately. Andrew gets some concrete that's in the room, and he kills the man. It happened very quickly. Like, I didn't expect for that to happen so soon, but it happened very quickly. Homeboy is dead to the basement floor. We're flashing back forward, and we're with the police, and we're back with Marilyn. So Marilyn offers the inventory of what is missing. You know, she has really no emotion. She says $2,000, the coins that he pawned and that we saw earlier on. He stole a Lexus. He also stole a coat and some suits. She is told, the police tell her there were some items found with the body, you know, and she said, well, it must have been a robber. She's just saying it's a robbery, and it's, you know, it was the robbery of opportunity or something, she says. She denies. She plays the role of a wife in denial. The woman was excellent on this episode. Like, it was to a T. Well, the magazines and the underwear, it must have belonged to the robber. It didn't belong to him. And she said she don't care about the intentions of the man who committed the crime. She just wants them to catch the person who did the crime, because he's already robbed her of her husband. He is not going to rob her of their good name and everything they have worked hard for. So I was like, all right, girl. All right, Marilyn, you better stand by your man. Like I said, I really think they really had some love for each other. We're with the police. So the police are trying to find Andrew Cunanan, and what happens is they're trying to track the phone. So what happens is they figure out the phone turns on, or the satellite turns on every time the car turns on, so they can track him. I think it was like navigation, or, you know, early navigation system, so they could figure out where he was. It was something to do with the cell phones, like every time the cell phone came on, every time the car came on, so they could track where he was gonna be at. Now, they were supposed to keep this information between them, but when Andrew was running in the car, he heard hit on the radio. Sometimes everything should not be for public consumption, people, okay? Because you just gave him the answer to the problem. So he jumps out the car, he rips the antenna off the car, he throws away the cell phone. So now they don't have no way to get in touch with him. He's realizing that he needs a new vehicle. He drives to New Jersey, and we see him wandering around. Like I said, I was in and out the room, so I saw him sitting down, wandering around, looking at people people trying to find somebody to rob. He finally sees this old woman, and he's just about to rob her when he notices a red truck drive by with the older man. He gets out, he checks the mail, and he goes into his house. So Andrew follows him into the house. He pulls a gun on the man and tells him, I'm just here to get your car. And so the man give him the keys. You know, he makes the man get on his knees. I know that he's going to kill him. We know because he committed that murder. That's the truck. You know, we all know this. But, you know, the man was begging for his life, saying, I have a kid, you know, I have a wife, I would like to see them again. He really could have just took the car, but if you think about it, he probably couldn't have, since it was a nationwide manhunt for him. He saw his face, so, you know, he had to kill him. So he just shot him. The way that they portray him as like a sociopath is really interesting to me, because he had no emotion for this man at all. He just shot the man. I was like, dog, this dude is cold-blooded. I forgot to mention that not only did he kill Lee Miglin, he stayed in the house for the whole time the lady was gone. Like, he didn't just kill him and leave. He stayed there for several days, okay? Like, several days. And he almost killed him earlier when he pulled the gun on him, when he was talking about all the stuff, showing how angry and jealous and upset he gets when he realizes he don't have the power. He pulled the gun on him, but when he turned around, he had put the gun away. Andrew is really, like, he really got all his screws is loose, honey. Every last one of them hoes is loose. So at the end of the episode, we're with Marilyn, and she's back on the Home Shopping Network. In real life, she went back to work pretty quickly, but this speech did not happen on the Home Shopping Network in real life. But she basically goes on and says that Lee was her husband. No matter what happened, he was her husband, and she loved him, and he was supportive. And how many women's husbands support them? And, you know, a man, and if you think about it, during that time, to have a supportive husband, a man who will support your dreams, you know, during that time period, thinking about how old they are, that probably was rare, because, you know, men went to work and women stayed home. Women ain't had no dreams. If you had a dream, you know, you probably ain't achieved it, more than likely, unless you was, you know, a really, you know, forward thinking type of woman. Did it lean itself to say, well, because he could be so supportive because he wasn't, you know, out here chasing cootie cat? Okay, or because he spent so much time, you know, trying to repress his homosexuality, or did that make him a better? I don't know. And then it went into, I forgot the part about when he went to pray at the altar. That was really interesting too. Like I said, it dealt a lot with shame. You know, you can tell that Lee was very shamed about what he was and his feelings, because he said, I'm trying. After Andrew called him, I'm trying. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. I want more, and I know they're not going to give us more, but I really want more. And I feel like, sometimes I feel like, well, how much of this is true? I mean, a lot of this stuff is not true, or it's just inferred, because we were not there. The only people who got killed were the two, you know, the only people know what happened is him and the person he killed. Now, his family still denies some of these allegations to this day. They saying he was framed and he was set up, and I don't believe all of that. It just leans itself to what is actually true. I heard somewhere that Donatella said the only thing she requested for the show was that they not have the kids on the show. So not Allegra and the other Versace child. So not Gianni's kids, her kids, okay? So she said she didn't want them exploited. But other than that, I mean, you know, she was cool with it. She was basically okay with it, because, you know, they was going to do it whether she liked it or not. So far, it's been pretty good. This one was kind of like a filler a little bit, but that murder scene, because they said all of Lee's ribs were broken, every last one. And he broke his nose before he started talking to him, giving that long monologue. So I was like, that was a horrible, horrible murder. And I'm sure it's probably more horrible than they portrayed on the TV screen, y'all. I want to hear what you think about this show. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends. My information will be down below in the description box. I will holler at y'all later. Peace.